Welcome to Poker Live. Next question, Crispin. What are some things that you can learn from poker that can benefit other parts of your life?
That's an extraordinary question. Poker is a wonderful shorthand for life. In a single hand, you have a number of different elements that reflect your life totally. You have a series of decisions that you have to make with imperfect information. If you think about all the decisions that you make in your life where you don't actually know everything, they're the biggest decisions. Where to buy a house, the kind of car, the kind of career, who you marry, what your children are going to be like. All of these things, you're doing your best guess. Like take your biggest decision, who you end up with. Well, you don't know that person completely. You can't. They don't know you completely. And even if they did, they're not going to know you 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, and how you're going to be in your life path and your trajectory and vice versa. It's a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of difficulty in managing these big choices. Poker helps with that. Poker teaches you to make optimal decisions and accept the variance that comes with that. And that's just life. I mean, you can do everything right, but have a terrible accident, or something could happen at work, or there's a global pandemic, or something happens that's totally outside of your control, which forces you to adapt and react. And how you manage that is within your control. There's a big stoic element to poker, which with thousands of hours of training at the poker table, you can then apply to other places. So if you think of what life is, see how this applies to poker. A series of decisions with probabilistic outcomes where there's an element of luck, an element of preparation. And that's a single poker hand, okay? In life, there are things you can do to help you make your own luck. You work hard, you get an education, you do your best to present opportunities to yourself, and then you take those opportunities. Same in a poker tournament. You try and take your spots. Things may go really well in terms of process, and yet because of luck, things don't go your way. And then you have to emotionally cope with that. And that loss can be a truncated form of grief. So poker, in terms of helping you to deal with the vicissitudes of the human existence, is really good training. And it's easy to apply. Some of the principles that you learn from poker, so for example, how mistakes can compound. Like if you do things in a disciplined way at the beginning and make sure you only play your appropriate range and you do pre-flop correctly, well, that makes your decisions on later streets much easier. Well, if you are eating healthy, getting the right amount of sleep, exercising, doing the study, not procrastinating on the household chores, those kinds of things make dealing with the problems that you face much easier. So that's the first thing. It will help you make better decisions, not just at the table, but in life. It will train you through constant repetition to expect things to go wrong. And when things do, you're anticipating that and adapting to it.
So what you're saying is poker's taught you to focus on what you can control, the process, and then whatever the outcome is that outcome.
That's exactly right. I mean, the Stoics would say you can divide everything in the universe to what you can control and what you can't control. And therefore, you should focus entirely on what you can control and not even worry about the things that you can't control. The weather's bad, the bus is late, whatever. Things that are beyond your control, you should expect to happen. Because
variance.
Yeah, variance.
Well, how does poker, say, help your career? What are skills that you can get from poker to help your career?
First of all, there's a certain degree of mathematics that you learn playing poker that is useful in all kinds of life, because we don't use maths in our day-to-day activity as much as we once did. And so being able to just do calculations very quickly, which you train to do doing poker, is very useful. You get a greater sense of probability. How likely are things to happen? How much should we prepare? Insurance becomes a much bigger question. These types of things where you start to have better risk assessment. You also have better value judgment. If you are looking at an opportunity or you're looking at a purchase, the value of that and what it will add to you becomes a slightly different calculation, in part because you start to look at things in terms of big lines. So, I mean, as in like you go, okay, I'm going to invest in this particular asset because I think over this period of time, I'll get this much out of it. And it makes your decisions more sophisticated. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you're looking at buying a video game. Prior to poker, I would instinctively buy a video game on the basis that it looks good or friends have recommended it. And these are all good reasons. These are good reasons to look at a game. But I'll add dimensions to that now and say, okay, this is the price point. How much enjoyment am I likely to get out of this particular activity? How many hours is that? And how much is that worth to me? You can start to incorporate financial decision-making into a conversion that applies to other forms of value. So not just financial benefit, but entertainment, relationships, time, other things. You start to look at the world in a slightly different way to maximize efficiency. So that is definitely a life skill. You start to maximize your efficiency because you go, okay, I need to exercise this much to increase my life expectancy by that much and also my life quality. And this will give me extra time to do these other things. In other words, you start to look at things in a more complete way, the value of each decision. Another thing is you start to look at things in a long-term way. In poker, the short term is almost entirely variance. If you go to a live poker game and you sit down that night, the majority of the outcome will be determined by luck. But if you stretch that over a year, it's all skill. And so you start to think more in terms of Pareto distribution. If I do a little bit today and I do a little bit every day, what will happen at the end of the year? So you find yourself doing much better when it comes to not only starting, but also completing projects. Let's say you want to write a book or you have some weight goals. I am so much better at achieving those things now as a consequence of poker because I understand how a little bit today, you may not notice the difference. And because we have short feedback mechanisms inbuilt to us, we want to experience results straight away. And therefore we might go to the gym for 2 days, but then eat 5,000 calories because that immediate pleasure seems like a greater reward than the long-term methodical change that happens over time. You can develop that part of your brain to be much stronger in terms of delaying gratification and achieving long-term reward if you play poker, because you have to look at the long-term in poker. There is no real benefit in looking at short-term results. It shows you just how cognitively foolish doing so is in a way that is not so easy just in day-to-day life. You've got all these distractions that can stop you from doing the things that you actually want to achieve in life. So it will help you achieve goals, and that will definitely help you in your career as it would in every other aspect of your life.